Hey, 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 everybody. Happy Tuesday. How is everybody? I'm Dr. Amy Myers. I'm the founder and medical director of Austin Ultra Health. I'm also the New York Times bestselling author of The Autoimmune Solution and the Thyroid Connection, as well as the upcoming book, The Autoimmune Solution Cookbook, which will be coming out May 8th, 2018. It's available for pre-order now on Amazon or wherever books are sold. All right, so today we're going to be talking about the 5 most important supplements that anyone with an autoimmune condition should be taking. So I literally take all 5 of these myself. Y'all know I take a ton of supplements. I don't believe that supplements are the only piece to healing. You've got to do the diet, the Myers way. You've got to look at all the root causes, and the supplements can be your jump start into healing. So these are the supplements that I take myself. I recommend to all of my patients with autoimmunity, and I cover them in my books, both the Autoimmune Solution, the Autoimmune Solution Cookbook. Again, supplements are not part of the cookbook, but we have a section in there should people be interested. And also I have an online program, the Autoimmune Solution online program, that's a 6-week program that will really handhold you through my book, The Autoimmune Solution. Now, each 3 of these programs, just as a caveat, all have separate recipes. So they all follow the same program, but if you're somebody who has one but not the other, or curious about all 3, that all 3 have totally different recipes. So the recipes in the Autoimmune Solution Cookbook are all new. Of course, we have about 5, maybe 10 fan favorites, but otherwise these are all new recipes. So, and know that there's just a lot of information out there about supplements, and it can be super confusing. So you've got to go to a source that you trust. And so if you know anybody who has autoimmunity, if you'd please share this information with them, I would appreciate it. They would appreciate it. You know, my whole purpose of being here is that conventional medicine failed me, and it is my mission to not have it fail you too. And in that mission, is that sharing information and knowledge is power. So please share this information with anybody that you know is suffering from autoimmunity, or maybe think that they might have autoimmunity. So let's talk about why I recommend supplements for people with conditions. I mean, there are actually 4 supplements that I call the essentials that I recommend to everybody. But today we're really going to be talking about those supplements just for autoimmunity. So the first thing that I'd like to say for anybody out there who's newly been diagnosed, anybody who is new to me, I just want you to know, like the other woman who wrote that review, that there is hope and that autoimmune conditions can be reversed. I was the first to really coin this phrase that autoimmunity is on a spectrum. So way down here, there's no inflammation. Very few people have none of that. I mean, perhaps potentially, a newborn baby. But even, babies are born with certain toxins and, things, maybe C-section didn't get their microbiome. And then way up here is autoimmunity. And then in this middle is this gray area that I call the spectrum. And you can be working your way up to autoimmunity through inflammation. You can also get well and work your way back down the spectrum. So that's so important to know, is that there's this continuum of your health. And that if you work your way up, you can often work your way back down. And so that's really one of the main core tenets of the Myers Way Autoimmune Solution program and protocol is dietary and lifestyle changes, figuring out these 4 core, or 5 root factors. So the studies show out there with identical twins that about 25% of autoimmunity is genetic, but 75% is really based on environmental factors. And that's where I really focus most of the Myers Way, is figuring out these root causes, or 5 environmental factors. So when you address the 5 environmental root causes, you can often reverse autoimmunity. So how do I address those 5 root causes? That is repair your gut, optimizing your diet, taming the toxins, healing infections, and relieving stress. So as you do those things, then you can often reverse autoimmunity. So a lot of change in and of itself, or improvement or healing, can happen just through diet and lifestyle changes. So because of our modern environments, we really need to think about, like, well, how did we get here in the first place? How did we get to needing to repair our gut or optimize our diets or tame these toxins? And we are living in, obviously, a modern world that has many things that it didn't have when our parents, grandparents, and certainly great-grandparents were growing up. So we have really changed the food that we're eating, and we're eating heavily processed food. We're eating food that really isn't, frankly, food anymore. And we are dealing with things like leaky gut, partly in part because of our diet. And we have more toxins than ever before. We're having more infections than ever before. And we're stressed out more than ever before. And because of this, we are becoming a nutrient depleted society. We aren't eating the good food that we used to eat. Even if you are eating a really good diet and it's full of nutrients, our soil is different than it ever used to be. And it's more depleted. So even if you think you're eating the greatest diet in the world, our soil is depleted. So even if you're eating all organic fruits and vegetables, our soil that they're grown in is depleted. Then, we are being exposed to things. Even again, if you're eating a fully organic diet, you just, are getting exposed to GMOs, out at a restaurant, over at a friend's house, where the cows that are eating the grass are getting toxins on the grass. So that's leading us to leaky guts. We have more toxins than we've ever experienced in our lifetime, in our parents' lifetime, in our grandparents' lifetime, probably combined. Then we have these infections, and then we're all dealing with stress. We're, stressed out beings. And so we really need to see that that we need supplements in order to overcome these infections, overcome the stress or the damage of it, get rid of the toxins, heal our gut, and to add in nutrients that we're missing. So for many people that come to see me with autoimmunity, the diet is definitely the first place we start. And then I add in supplements, sometimes just to speed up the process, sometimes to overcome things, sometimes in order to get toxins out, and sometimes just to support the immune system. And some of those supplements, after they've healed, they can drop. Other ones, as I mentioned, I think that people need, 5 sort of key or 4 key supplements for just in general that I can briefly mention at the end. And then 5 key supplements that you may want to stay on, with autoimmunity. So, I've worked with literally thousands of people in my own clinic, and I've had a clinic for over a decade now. And then, of course, worked with tens of thousands or helped tens of thousands of people from around the world who've read my books and, then gotten supplements or done my programs. And there were supplements as part of that. And I've really found in working with all of these people that there are, 5 supplements that you need that I'm going to go over here in a second. And then I'll answer your questions afterwards. But 5 key supplements for those of us with autoimmunity. And I take these myself. These are the ones I recommend to my patients. I've mentioned them in my books, my programs. And when I talk about these, I want you to know that, when you take something, it can work as a standalone. And then if you take something else, they could sort of work together. And there are others where they can actually potentiate each other. And that means that it actually improves how the other one works, and it compounds on it, sort of like compound interest in your savings account. So it just compounds on it and helps it even more, potentiates it. So the first 3 that I'm going to talk about here now, they all work together and potentiate one another. So let's go over these. And I'm going to take a sip of water super quick. Okay, so the first one is my favorite supplement. And if I could only take one supplement for the rest of my life, this would be the supplement that I take. And I'm going to tell you why in just a second. But I go everywhere with this supplement. So it is called glutathione. Now, glutathione is our body's biggest detoxifier. It is what I refer to in the autoimmune solution as glorious glutathione. We all naturally make glutathione in our body. Recent research has shown those of us with autoimmunity and even people with cancer and other chronic health conditions have lower levels of glutathione. Now, it seems that having a low level of glutathione is a predictor or a precursor to getting one of these chronic illnesses. Rather than having a chronic illness deplete you of your glutathione, it's more having low glutathione can lead to one of these conditions. Now, I would venture to say that it's a double whammy. I don't have any research to support that, but in knowing what I know and working with thousands of people over the last decade, it's probably a double whammy. The low glutathione led you, partly, can be a root cause for getting in this condition in the first place. And then having one of these conditions that likely, has leaky gut and toxins and other things associated with it, probably potentiates having or depletes your glutathione as well. Research has found that glutathione levels can be a predictor of how long you live. So low glutathione levels means potentially you're going to have a shorter lifespan. Now, the bad thing about glutathione is it has a very short half-life. So it's really hard to get glutathione. And certain people don't make it very well because they have certain genetic SNPs. And if you haven't ever done anything like a 23andMe or something to find out your genetic SNPs, highly recommend it. I know for myself, I don't make glutathione very well. So it is the one supplement, and knowing what I know about low glutathione levels, that I make sure I always take. So glutathione is a peptide that helps bind toxins and free radicals so that you can literally flush them out of your body. And so having free radicals and having toxins build up in your system, if you don't have enough glutathione, is one of the root causes that can lead to autoimmunity and other chronic health conditions. Glutathione is found in every cell in your body, and it plays a key role in your immune system. So without having enough glutathione in our system, then the toxins linger longer in our bloodstream. Then they get stored in our fat, and then they increase our toxic burden. And we know people with autoimmunity have higher toxic burdens. So again, you normally produce this, and there's some things that you can do and eat to help you produce it more. But you might just be a gerbil on a wheel. I mean, I do all those things, but I still I'm missing some. I'm GSTM1 negative, meaning I don't recycle or make my glutathione well. I found that out from a 23andMe. So I don't do that very well. So even if I'm eating all this stuff, like sulfur-rich foods or onions and garlic, cruciferous vegetables, I still might not be able to make enough glutathione. It's like me with MTHFR. I have 2 mutations. I couldn't eat enough kale to keep my folinic acid up. I've got to take a supplement. So this is personalized medicine, folks. One size does not fit all. You could be sitting there next to your sister, and she has amazing glutathione levels and got genetics from your mom and makes glutathione well. And you could be yourself, and you got terrible genetics from your dad who doesn't make glutathione because he was GTS1 negative, and you could be too. So this is, really natural medicine, what do I want to say? This is individualized medicine and is not one size fits all. So that whole USDA recommended daily dose or something, that's in order to prevent a really scurvy when it comes to, vitamin C. So this is about optimal health. So you can slow your production of glutathione or ways, or obviously your genetics. I've just talked about that. If you just don't have the genetics, and so definitely worth finding out if you have the genetics or not to make your glutathione. If you're not eating a diet rich in these sulfur foods, you're probably going to have low glutathione levels. High toxin exposure, it's kind of the double whammy. I have 2 mutations in MTHFR. I don't get rid of heavy metals well. Heavy metals can cause you to deplete your glutathione. Double whammy there. Certain medications can cause you to naturally not produce glutathione or cut off their production, like Tylenol, over-the-counter medication considered super safe, depletes your glutathione. And then, of course, chronic illness, like I was telling you about, is that double whammy. Low glutathione leads to chronic illness. Chronic illness can deplete your body of glutathione. So who do I recommend glutathione for? Of course, anybody with autoimmunity, anybody with a chronic illness, anybody with mold and mycotoxin exposure. When I was recovering from my mycotoxin exposure, I used a lot of glutathione, and it's why I go nowhere without it. Heavy metal overload, so if you're somebody who's been told that you have high levels of mercury or something, and MTHFR mutations. I don't like talking about cancer because that is sort of a can of worms. Certainly, let me just mention who shouldn't take glutathione. You don't want to take glutathione if you're actively going through like chemotherapy or something, because this stuff works. It helps get toxins out. Chemotherapy is a toxin. So if you want your chemotherapy to work, you probably don't want to take glutathione. Now, after you're done with that treatment, certainly you could consider glutathione. If you're not somebody who took glutathione and you started taking it, you probably wouldn't want to do that if you were pregnant or breastfeeding, because again, it's going to pull the toxins out. Now, if you're somebody already taking it, I wouldn't necessarily stop taking it, but because you're probably on a good cycle of keeping that stuff out. But you definitely want to, consult with your physician about that if you're pregnant, nursing, or somebody who's on some sort of drug that is toxic to your system, but you're taking it in order to kill something, then you might not want to do that because it could flush it out of your system. Other than that, I put glutathione cream on Elle from the day she was born. We live in a toxic world, so you can't overdose on glutathione. So again, I personally take it every day because of my autoimmunity. I have had high heavy metals. I'm very sensitive to mold. So it is one of these things. I have that and the coconut charcoal that we carry in a little pouch that I virtually take with me everywhere. In addition to toxins and helping you, reduce your toxic burden, it's super helpful for maintaining lean muscle mass, recovery time, shifting your metabolism from fat production to muscle development. And when it comes to autoimmunity, if you're also curious about glutathione and how to do it or does it work, if you just Google Dr. Perlmutter, David Perlmutter, and glutathione and Parkinson's, you'll see some amazing videos of when he used to have his clinic. He doesn't have a clinic anymore, but when he did, he used to give IV glutathione to his Parkinson's patients. So Parkinson's, we do believe, is due to some problem in detoxification. People with neurologic disorders like MS, typically those can be related to toxic exposures to things. So that's one way to see the powerful benefits with your own two eyes of glutathione. I remember the first time I got a glutathione IV, my husband looked at me and was like, wow, you suddenly got like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed when I was feeling really, down and out after a mold exposure. So IV is the gold standard, and it is the best way to get glutathione. So if you have a place you can do that and, and that's not too cost prohibitive for you, go for it. However, for most people, it's hard to find a place to get an IV. It's very expensive. It does not last for very long at all. By the time people are leaving Dr. Perlmutter's office, it's already wearing off. It doesn't last long. It's expensive. Personally, I hate needles. So I, have done it just a few times in my life. It is one of those things that if you do an IV of glutathione, you should notice something right away. So it's not one of those things that you need to go back 10 times to finally feel its effects. So it is something you should notice right away. Now, because that's not super convenient for people, it's not super cost effective for people, other companies have been racing to the market to try to get glutathione in an oral form. The problem is that most glutathione is broken down in the gut before it even gets to you. So if you're just buying regular glutathione over the counter somewhere and just says glutathione, you're probably wasting your money. So glutathione is definitely one of those products that you get what you pay for. So if you're doing that and you're not noticing, definitely if you're just taking regular glutathione orally, save your money, return that bottle, get rid of it. probably not doing anything for you. You're better off taking the precursors to glutathione, which is what I used to recommend to people before we started carrying the glutathione that I have, which are milk thistle, alpha lipoic acid, NAC. And again, that's making some assumption that your body can make that conversion. And of course, eating cruciferous vegetables, eating onions, eating garlic, eating sulfur-rich foods, those are all going to help you make glutathione. And then not doing a bunch of stuff that decreases your glutathione, you know, dealing with toxins. Alcohol decreases your glutathione. You need that to actually, you know, get rid of the alcohol in your system as it's going through your liver. So the glutathione that I carry in my store is acetylated glutathione. Now you're also starting to see on the market a lot of different acetylated glutathiones. And again, you get what you pay for. So acetylating it allows it to bypass or not get broken down in the gut. And so that's wonderful. Now, what's extra special about the glutathione that I have that most other people do not have is that it also has some nanotechnology associated with it. And nanotechnology allows it to be more bioavailable. Get it where it needs to go and have it to be more bioavailable. What the hell does that mean? Excuse me. What does that mean? It means that your body can actually use it. And that is what is important. I tried all these glutathiones out there trying to figure out when I was sick, and I couldn't feel any of them. And this glutathione is something that my patients would come back to me and say, oh my God, this is incredible. I have a friend who did an Ironman and said he went into the final part of the Ironman like he didn't just run however many miles he had to run and swim however many, or bike and swim. He was doing the running part, going to run a marathon. So athletes who are doing endurance athletics reduce their glutathione as well. Now, if you're doing sort of start and stop stuff, you replete your glutathione. But if you're doing an endurance like a marathon, long distance running, biking, Ironman, you're depleting your glutathione. So those people, I love giving it to athletes because they can tell right away. When I'm giving it to people with autoimmunity and other things, we're often doing a lot of things all at once, changing the diet, you know, fixing the gut, all this stuff, and doing glutathione. So sometimes they don't always know it's the glutathione that's worked. But when I give it to an athlete who's changed nothing else and all they're doing is doing their race or their ride or whatever. I mean, I've had athletes tell me they won't ever ride or do whatever without this glutathione. So by all means, pass it on to any athletes that you know as well. Okay, so if you can't tell, I'm super passionate about glutathione and I love the glutathione that we have. And it's important that you really look at whatever and that you are getting, that you are getting what you pay for when it comes to glutathione. All right. So our next supplement that we're going to be talking about, so we're talking about 5 supplements for those with autoimmunity. Be sure to share this with anybody who you know has autoimmunity. So our second supplement that I'm going to be talking about, and don't forget the first 3 that I'm talking about potentiate one another, meaning that they heighten the effectiveness of one another. So it's really great if you can take all 3 together. So curcumin. Everybody's been hearing about turmeric. It is all over the internet. You're seeing golden milk. In fact, I have a recipe in my book, the Autoimmune Solution Cookbook. You're seeing it everywhere, right? This golden, beautiful spice that everybody's making a supplement out of. They're putting it in foods. They're making dishes. It's everywhere. And that is because curcumin, which comes from turmeric, is an amazing anti-inflammatory. So turmeric is rich in curcumin and other cuminoids. So these cuminoids and curcumin fight inflammation. It's shown in some studies to be more effective at reducing inflammation than an NSAID like Motrin or aspirin or ibuprofen. It can actually impact our genes. We all know through epigenetics, our genes are not static. So we can impact and regulate genes, turn them on, turn them off. So curcumin is one of those ones that can positively impact or turn on and regulate our systemic inflammatory pathways in a good way. So it turns them on in a good way and regulates them in a good way to be anti-inflammatory rather than pro-inflammatory. It's a powerful weapon, just like glutathione is, against free radicals. So those free radicals that we talked about damage the cells and our DNA. And that's what causes premature aging. That's what causes leaky gut. That's what causes autoimmunity and cancer and other chronic conditions. So curcumin is really perfect, as we know, for anybody with autoimmunity, a chronic and inflammatory condition. Definitely use a lot of it in my patients with autoimmunity with painful conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, things that are painful for them. I mean, somebody with Hashimoto's or Sjogren's maybe isn't painful, but it's inflammatory. We definitely use curcumin. But when they actually have an inflammatory or a painful autoimmune condition, we use even more of it. So the thing about turmeric, and you can eat tons of turmeric and you could cook with turmeric, and I highly encourage you to do those things. Drink turmeric tea, whatever you want. But turmeric is only 2 to 5% curcuminoids by weight. So that's why I recommend really taking a curcumin supplement, because that's where the money is, the gold, so to speak, in the golden supplement or in the golden root. You can go buy turmeric root right next to ginger root in the grocery store. Go do it. It's fabulous. Can stain your clothes, stain your countertops. So be careful if you're cooking with it, using it in smoothies, things like that. But if you got a painful condition or inflammatory condition or autoimmunity, you probably want to take curcumin as a supplement. So just like glutathione, you get what you pay for. A lot of curcumin supplements out there are very difficult to absorb. So curcumin in and of itself is water soluble. So you just frankly pee it out. What you need is one that is fat soluble. And it naturally is not fat soluble, which is why people put it in coconut milk and other things that have fat in it to help you absorb it better. So as a supplement, you want to find one that has fat in it so that it's more bioavailable, more absorbable. You can use it more. So of course, the one I carry in my store is fat soluble with an extra special extract, 86% of curcuminoids. So super duper important. Some supplements, you were just talking about this, magnesium. I mean, depending on what kind of magnesium it is, it's magnesium. I mean, it doesn't really matter in some ways where you get certain things. I mean, the industry is an unregulated industry, so you always want to trust your source. But there are other supplements that you really got to go beyond just trusting your source. You got to make sure you're getting them in the right form that is bioavailable, so it actually does what it says it's going to do and helps you. This is good hard-earned money that you're spending. You want to make sure it's going to something. It's far better to spend, more money on something that's going to work for you than less money on a bunch of things that aren't going to work for you. So I grew up, my dad always said, like, one nice thing rather than a bunch of little things. So I've always been that kind of person. Quality matters to me. Anybody who knows me, works with me, knows quality matters to me. I'd rather have one nice thing than 10 not so nice things that are going to break. One thing that will last you a lifetime than something that is going to last you a month, and then you're doing that. So you want to invest in your health. Okay, so the third supplement that I'm going to talk about is, and again, this is the third of the three that potentiate one another, that work together to help it be more bioavailable and active in your body and help you more. They all compound on one another, and that is resveratrol. So everybody's probably heard about resveratrol, right? I mean, everybody knows wine. Drinking red wine is good for you, right? Well, yes and no. So wine has some components called phenols, of which resveratrol is one, that can be beneficial to you. But that whole thing of, let me drink a couple glasses of wine a night so I can get all the resveratrol for me, you got to think about it. It also has alcohol, which can be toxic. Certainly, I mean, alcohol is a toxin. It's just that our body can, usually get rid of it. Sugar that can be inflammatory. It might feed infections like candida or SIBO. Wine, if you're somebody dealing with SIBO or candida, is fermented. I like to think of it as liquid yeast. So certainly if you have candida, you want to be avoiding wine. And then, of course, if you're somebody who's sensitive to histamines or sulfates or anything like that, those are typically pretty relatively high in wine as well. So they can be inflammatory to some people. So researchers, of course, found this phenol in wine and isolated out resveratrol and found that that was really the main component of wine that had all this fabulous anti-inflammatory property to it. Again, I keep saying the word free radicals. Those are the bad things that damage your DNA, premature aging, leaky gut, inflammation, autoimmunity, cancer. And resveratrol is a really good, powerful scavenger of those free radicals. It also helps to modulate the immune system. And again, it does that alone, and it does it even better when it's with the glutathione and with the curcumin. So it regulates the activity of our white blood cells, our natural killer cells, those ones that go in and eat up and kill all the bad guys. So it also protects your heart, which is why a lot of people say, oh, drink red wine for your heart. It protects the endothelium, or the inner part of your arteries. And it increases nitric oxide. And there's a lot of studies showing, again, people certainly with autoimmunity have lower nitric oxide levels. So the supplement, the resveratrol that I have in my store, has the benefits of 2 to 4 glasses of wine. And it comes in this amazing little lozenge. You know, if you've been missing your sugar, in fact, maybe I'll suck on one right now. A little grape flavored lozenge. And let me just pull one out. It's like a little piece of candy. They're really delicious. So it's like, you know, it's not as intense as a sweet tart. It's really like eating a little piece of candy. So I like to eat it after a meal, after lunch, after dinner, where you're kind of having that little sugar craving and you don't want to eat sugar. So you can have some resveratrol. So don't forget, those first 3 supplements that I talked to you about, the glutathione, the curcumin, and the resveratrol, all work synergistically together to potentiate one another. And as with all supplements, but these in particular, you get what you pay for. So go back, if you've just joined us now, listen, glutathione, you want to make sure it's acetylated in nanotechnology. Curcumin, you want to make sure it's in its fat-soluble form. Resveratrol, I like the sublingual. You have a lot of blood vessels under your tongue, so it allows you to absorb it better. And then all 3 of those potentiate one another. Okay, moving on to supplement number 4. Supplement number 4 is immune booster. So likely you've heard about colostrum, which is the first milk, whether it comes from, you as a mother, breastfeeding your baby. Colostrum's that first milk that comes in that's filled with immunoglobulins, where a lot of people think of it from a cow, the first colostrum from a cow, and all the immunoglobulins there. So colostrum, as I mentioned, has all the immunoglobulins. When it says breastfeed your baby, it's really good for their immune system. That's why it's passing all these immunoglobulins. So immunoglobulins are proteins that help fight off invaders. So they're really the first line of defense, particularly in your gut. Now, we have multiple different types of immunoglobulins in our body. We have IgG, that's mostly in your blood. We have IgE, that's also in your blood. We have IgM, which is in your blood. We don't really fully know what IgM does. IgG, when you have a problem with food sensitivities, is your immune system that comes out after 48 to 72 hours. IgE is your immediate immune system. And then we have the all-important IgA, and that's in your gut. When I say nearly 60 to 80% of your immune system's in your gut, that's from the IgA in your gut. Your gut secretes IgA if it's working properly, and that is the immune system in your gut. So IgA is just essential to keep your immune system in general, well, all the immunoglobulins in general. And for your gut in particular, IgA and its secretion is so important to keep that barrier or that leaky gut away, to keep your gut nice and intact and not leaky. Or if you're dealing with leaky gut, to help seal up that leaky gut. So, a lot of people think, oh, I have autoimmunity. That means my immune system's overactive. That's actually, for some people, very false. It's a little bit counterintuitive. With autoimmunity, your immune system isn't overactive, it's just overworked, and it needs to be supported. In fact, a lot of people I see in my clinic, because I check immunoglobulins. It's a simple blood test that your regular doctor can check for you. Total IgG, IgA, IgM, and IgE. blood test, your doctor can check it for you. You can find out what your levels are. I check them on everybody that walks in the door. So I often see people with autoimmunity have low immunoglobulins. Maybe not all of them, but some people have IgA. I see a lot of people with mold and Lyme have low IgM, low IgG. So, you got to look at this stuff. In fact, one of the treatments for autoimmunity for some people is to do IV IgG, putting back those immunoglobulins. So this is very important if you have autoimmunity to, you could go get tested and find out what your levels are. But because it's an issue with the balance of the immune system, I do recommend that my patients take something called immune booster. Now, this is for two reasons. One, because it's packed with all 4 types of immunoglobulins, but also because it helps you to support your gut repair pathways, which most people with autoimmunity have a leaky gut. We know through the research of Dr. Alessio Fasano that if you have a autoimmune condition, you likely have to have leaky gut. It's a precursor to autoimmunity. So the immune booster that I have on my website is sort of like supercharged colostrum. So it has all 4 immunoglobulins, helps to regulate your immune system, get it back in balance, supports your gut repair pathways, and it's great during the winter. Even if you're somebody who doesn't have autoimmunity, it's just great in the winter to help with those, colds and flus that are going around. So because it does come from colostrum, it has a teeny tiny trace amount of dairy. Now, it's not casein dairy, it's the whey dairy. So the casein dairy is usually the one that I'm always talking about when I talk about gluten and dairy. It's really gluten and casein, and they share a similar structure. And that word that you've maybe heard me say, molecular mimicry, they can look to your immune system the same. So casein is the one that I always want people to avoid. Whey, some people can tolerate. Now, this is literally minute amounts. So for most people, it is not a problem for them to be taking this colostrum. So at any point on my website, if you choose to get something and you're not satisfied for any reason, we do have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So you could give it a try, and then if for whatever reason it's not working for you. But it is approved on the Myers Way Autoimmune Solution Program. And I've used it in thousands of patients, and it's very, very, very rare that somebody cannot tolerate it. So it is there. And then the 5th supplement that I recommend for anyone with autoimmunity is L-Glutamine. Now, you might think, well, why is L-Glutamine in here? I mean, I understand the other ones, the glutathione because of the toxins, the resveratrol, for all the antioxidant properties, and the curcumin for the anti-inflammatory, and even the immune booster because of the, immunoglobulin. But glutamine, what is that doing here? Well, I included glutamine in this top 5 supplements for people with autoimmunity because of the work of Alessio Fasano, that if you have an autoimmune condition, you likely have a leaky gut. And L-glutamine is one of my absolute go-tos, besides collagen, or in addition to collagen, that I go to heal somebody's gut. So the gut is the gateway to health. I've just told you why with the immunoglobulins, with it being the precursor to autoimmunity. And so the first step in healing yourself from autoimmunity is to heal your gut. How do we heal our gut? We change our diet, and then we get some things out of the gut if there's any infections, and then we repair the gut. So important. Repairing the gut is where I start with all my patients. And L-glutamine is a key part of my 4R approach to repairing the gut. So it's an amino acid, and it helps your cells rejuvenate quicker. So the gut lining will turn over and repair more quickly. In addition, just an added benefit, it also can help fight sugar cravings. So L-glutamine is super key. So you can find all of the supplements, the 5 supplements that I just talked to you about on my website. They're all bundled together in a little kit, the autoimmune kit, all 5 supplements together. And when you get them as a kit, you save 10%. So you can head over to my website, go to amymd.io/AI. And anytime you want, you can go get the autoimmune solution kit, 10% off all 5 supplements. They're bundled together, everything that you need to help you reverse and recover from autoimmunity. So I also want to remind you that dietary and lifestyle factors play a huge role in reversing autoimmunity. So supplements are part of it for sure. But the first step is changing your diet. So it's why I wrote the Autoimmune Solution Cookbook. So don't forget that releases May 8th. So if you're following the Myers Way Autoimmune Solution Protocol already, this is a book with amazing recipes, over 150 brand new recipes to help you take back your life. If you're somebody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, you're brand new to this, and you're just wondering, oh my God, now I got to buy 2 books. No, I created the Autoimmune Solution Cookbook as a standalone book. If you've never read any of my other books, you're welcome to go buy a copy of one of them, but you don't have to. I'd walk you back through the introduction. What are the 5 root causes? What are the 4 pillars? Who am I? What do you need to do? All that kind of stuff is in this cookbook too. It's far more than a cookbook. It's a standalone book that really tells you about autoimmunity, about the autoimmune spectrum, quiz to find out if you have autoimmunity, what my 4-pillar program is, and then 150 new recipes. So if you pre-order now on Amazon or any other bookseller, you head back to my website. You can go over to amymd.io/AI cookbook. You put in your receipt, and we are going to give you over $150 in bonus gifts just for you. All right, so let's get to some questions. Mariella, if you used glutathione long-term, is there a risk? There is no risk that I'm aware of. This is a naturally occurring molecule in your body that our body produces in order to help you fight free radicals, get rid of toxins, sustain life, essentially. I mean, it's not life-sustaining, but we've already shown that there are studies showing that the lower the glutathione, the higher mortality you have. So I've been taking it for years, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know your personal health history, so always consult a physician, but I don't know of any long-term risk to glutathione. So, Susie, do you need to take glutathione away from other medications? Example, like 2 hours. That's a great question, Susie. I do typically take it on an empty stomach, and I do typically take it away from other, not necessarily other supplements, but certainly a medication. I mean, it should not be something that detoxifies out your thyroid hormone. I mean, I have certainly taken it right with my thyroid hormone. But if you have a medication that is some sort of toxin that needs to work in your system, perhaps better to take it. It is better absorbed on an empty stomach. So that's a great question. I do typically take it either like first thing in the morning or or last thing at night. However, if I'm in a situation and I'm in a really moldy place and I don't have a way to escape, I just take it. Now, I do typically take mine with charcoal, and that you definitely want to be taking away from other medications because the charcoal could bind the toxin, but also bind up that medication. Anna, can glutathione help control histamine? I'm assuming like a histamine intolerance. So, Anna, what I would tell you is that you want to figure out why you have a histamine intolerance, I'm assuming. Do you have leaky gut? Do you have SIBO? SIBO and histamine go hand in hand. Are you with histamine, are you getting too much histamine? Are you making too much histamine? Or are you not breaking down your histamine? So histamine, if you're getting too much, then you want to cut back on high histamine foods. If you are being exposed to it, like from an allergen outside, you might not have control over that. Are you not breaking it down? We have a great product called Histazyme that is DAO, that is the enzyme in your body that helps to break down histamine, and I would highly recommend that. Glutathione, I don't know of a one-to-one with glutathione and histamine, but certainly glutathione seems to make a lot of things better, but I don't know about glutathione specifically with histamine. Somebody's asking about glutathione and unknown allergies. I mean, I guess if you don't know why you have your allergy, do you have your allergy because you have a leaky gut and some toxin that's keeping your gut leaky? And as you use the glutathione, it helps you detox and then you heal your gut. So certainly glutathione can be a piece of both of these puzzles, but I don't know that glutathione helps one-to-one with an allergy, but certainly could potentially help with an underlying why you have an allergy. Okay, so Terry, is immunobooster okay to use if you have elevated immunoglobulins? So again, I can't speak to you personally in your health history. You want to check with your physician. Have I put any patients of mine on it with high immunoglobulins? Yes, but I'm also working with my patients to figure out why their immunoglobulins are high. So I have done that, but I would really work with a physician and work to figure out why your immunoglobulins are high in the first place. Julia, how long after starting supplements do you notice a change? So everybody is an individual. Some people never notice a change. Other people notice every little thing. I would say with the glutathione, that is my top supplement that people have come back to me and said, I know it's doing something for me. I feel something with that one. I know when I stop that one, I feel something. So everybody is totally different. For me and for many people, taking the glutathione, people notice something pretty right away. They have more pep in their step. They have more energy. As that toxic burden is going down, they're feeling better. So everybody's an individual. I cannot, give you a very specific, but I have people like the athletes who take it and notice a difference right on their very first run. So, but just because you don't notice a difference doesn't mean that a supplement isn't working. Everybody's different. I mean, certainly that's kind of what one thinks. I don't notice anything, let me stop it. But that's not always the case with something. There are times where, something's doing its job. However, you're just not noticing it. Now, if you have implemented dietary and lifestyle changes and you're including the supplements and nothing's getting better for you, well, I'd highly recommend a wellness coaching session with Dana. My team can put a link there for Dana. She can help you sort that out, or find a functional medicine physician. I'm not taking new patients at this time. I'm helping to serve the greater good and be a mom to my daughter, Elle. And so I certainly would recommend that you work with a physician, because that is something is not, right there. Typically, most people have some improvement if they're following the program, the diet, and supplements. People are asking, Jack and Nancy are asking about NAC. So NAC is N-acetylcysteine, which is a precursor to glutathione, and they're kind of doing different things. And again, like I said before, I used to use glutathione, NAC, milk thistle, alpha lipoic acid, magnesium, all help to produce glutathione. And that's what I used to use with my patients before I was able to find the glutathione that we now have. So those, you can take NAC and glutathione together. They're doing different things. And some people say to take NAC with glutathione because it helps to recycle the glutathione. So definitely you can take them together. Is it overkill? I don't know. Do you, or you can try to piecemeal it together with the NAC, the alpha lipoic acid, the milk thistle, and magnesium to help you make glutathione. I myself personally, and in my clinic with my patients, have had better results with just straight up taking the glutathione that we have now, which is why I basically just switched my whole clinic over to that and, have phased out the NAC on my website. But certainly you can either try the other or take it in conjunction with. Holly's asking, do you take the glutathione daily or on an as-needs basis? I personally take it every day because we're exposed to toxins every day. And then I take extra on an as-need basis. If I am traveling and exposed to more toxins, or if I get myself in a situation where I'm being exposed to known mold or something like that. Carla would like to know, are there any problems using these with celiac disease? Again, I can't speak to your own personal health history, but I use these all the time with people with celiac in my clinic. And celiac is an autoimmune condition. And if you're just joining us, go back and listen to the beginning, how I talk about how these, each of these can help with autoimmunity. All right, everybody, it's great to have you here today. Remember, I am here every Tuesday, 3 o'clock Central Standard Time, talking about various topics. Sometimes I will be interviewing other people. Sometimes I will be just me talking about a topic. I am going to New Zealand and Australia in April, and so I will not be doing Facebook Lives. However, I'll be over on Instagram doing Instagram stories. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, come on over, Amy Myers MD. You can see some cute some super cute videos of Elle walking today as we head into her first birthday. which will be this weekend.